Hey everyone, welcome to monthly project number 43, and the theme for this month is group shots. I've done a few myself in the past. In the industry, I've done a lot of group shots, team shots of superheroes, and it's a very important thing to understand how to put these together because there is a lot involved. So there's a lot to do with composition, placement, the way each character is adjusted and fits perfectly, like a puzzle almost. So that's kind of what the theme for this project was for my patrons. So for the past month, they've gone out and put their own together. So we're going to check those out today and see what everyone's come up with. Before we dive in, I wanted to show you some examples that I've done before. These were made for the What If series on Disney+. The first season, I was involved in just doing some sketches and compositions. They only wanted me to go as far as sketches to help set up some compositions. So here's a few examples that I did of that. This really kind of shows you what it's all about with group shots, you know, trying to puzzle and put all these pieces together, making sure that each pose kind of works next to the other pose. It's a very tricky thing, very fun to do this as well. So I'm really glad I got the opportunity to do that. But I just wanted to share this with you guys to show you what it's all about. So yeah, there's a lot of thought that goes into each setup and each pose individually. Each month I pick 3 submissions to critique. So congrats to David, Liam and Patrick. We're going to get into the feedback toward the end of the video. Alright, let's check out some submissions now. We're going to start with Paul. You've done He-Man versus Skeletor. You've got some of the other heroes versus villains up the back there. Overall, I really like this whole setup here. The placement and the actual angle that you've got looking down gives a really nice perspective for each pose. It's really cool. I especially like how you've, like the pose choices here with Skeletor especially. Having him in a really cool action pose like that, but also allowing a lot of space here for the next section in the back as it kind of goes further back in the dimension kind of thing. I just really like that choice there. It's like really smart. Everything's put together really well here. And also up the back there, you've got that secondary background action. I just really love, you know, the way you've drawn these as well and the color tones of everything. That line work is beautiful, by the way. And very bold, very standout. The color choices are it's giving off that 80s or 90s kind of vibe of the cartoon. And I really love the way that all works. This just looks really great overall. Very nice placement of everything. So well done, Paul. You've done an awesome job of that. All right, next we've got Renee, and you've done a big Spider-Verse piece here. This is massive. And I believe you've done this over a few months before this. These are some characters that you've done before, but compiling them all into a big picture together. This is really cool to play around with for placement especially. I really like how this looks. It's awesome. Really cool poster that you've got here. Lots of different spider people. I love your Spider-Punk. That's amazing. Love the way that works. And I really like how some of them have their own style, like Ben Reilly's Scarlet Spider there. He kind of matches his comic style. A lot of them match that style from the movie, Across the Spider-Verse, all that kind of stuff, you know. This is fun. This is awesome. You've even got Spider-Man Noir up the back there. This looks great. You've done an awesome job here. Oh, look at that. Hulk Spider, like Spider-Man Hulk. Lego Spider-Man. Spider-Ham. I can see the PlayStation Spider-Man there. Yeah, this is awesome. I really like that you've done this. And I just really like the look of that. It looks awesome. Really well done there, Renee. All right, let's check out Sai's artwork. So Sai, you've been busy. You're always putting multiple submissions out. I really love this X-Men piece here. Wolverine, front and center, really owning that. It looks awesome. The placement here is great. Seeing Jean Grey there, really doing her thing. And Storm is filling up that space nicely. Very, you know, the choice of that pose is just right for that. Cyclops, especially. The overall choice of each pose is just great. You know, you've got Storm going off diagonally that way, Cyclops diagonally that way, you know, Jean Grey doing that thing over that way, and then, yeah, Beast. And then you've got Wolverine directly at us. Like, it just makes for a great poster. So really good there. You've also got another submission here. This is Guardians of the Galaxy. Look at that energy. Overall, just the overall energy of this is insane. It's awesome. I love how you've got the foreshortening of Star-Lord's gun there. And it really sets up the angle that they're all following. That gun and the burst of the bullets coming out. So now they all follow that same perspective. And I really love the way that works. Even Groot's arm launching through. So that's really cool. There's Rocket up there. Star-Lord. I like that setup. That's great. Awesome. And you've got another one here. I think this is Midnight Suns, you said? This is cool. Look at Moon Knight there. He looks great. That's so cool. Details are looking great there. You got a Ghost Rider there, Morbius, and Blade. Another great setup here for the team shot. They're all kind of, I like the pose choice. He's leaning out that way. He's leaning out that way. And then you got front and center. Really cool low pose there. And you've got like a nice low angle. So the horizon line is about here, right through the center, which is kind of giving you a chance to look up at these guys looking a little bit more heroic, that low angle looking up. And then you get this really cool shot of Moon Knight right there. That's awesome. Awesome work there, Si. And we've got Patrick Downs. This is another submission from you. The other one I chose for a critique, and we'll talk about that later. But here is a nice submission here from you. All the X-Men put together. Really cool team shot here. More of a group kind of attitude, standing shots. Very heroic. Yeah, really cool work. I like the bold lines, those colors, really matching that tone of the 90s cartoon. Really awesome art there. You've got a really cool style. I love it. Next up, we've got Pat, and you've done Zelda. This is from, I think, Tears of the Kingdom, or just, all of the Zelda games. I love Breath of the Wild. I've played heaps of that, and Tears of the Kingdom. This is great. Really cool piece here. I like the angle looking down on them. Kind of gives a really cool perspective to these poses right here. And it's a really smart kind of choice because you do get a perspective that bursts outways up here. That low, like looking down perspective can add, a pretty dynamic shot here. So, I like what you've done. The drawings of these are great. Really detailed as well. Like, you've got this nice soft look about them. It's very calming almost. You've just got a really nice way of drawing things, and the color tones especially are really nice as well. So great work there, Pat. That's awesome. And we've got a submission here from Doug, or Nukta. And you've done a Psylocke here. You've got X-Men. There's Jubilee. You got Gambit down there. So really cool. I actually like the vibrancy of this sword up here. Super vibrant. A lot of energy coming off that as well. Ideally, it'd be cool to get the group shot, full bodies and together. This is more, the way they're placed, it's more of a poster stylized kind of layout, you know what I mean? Having the kind of floating heads in their sections. But it'd be really cool to have, action pose all kind of working together. That would make a really cool team shot. But overall, really, it looks like you've had a lot of fun with this, and the drawing is really cool. I like your Psylocke's pose there. Thanks for your submission, Doug. Awesome. And we've got a submission from Douglas Miller here, and you've definitely got your iconic style thrown in here. This is a very unique looking poster here. You've got Nightcrawler there. Love Nightcrawler. Kind of misty effects around him. But if you look, you can actually see, like this poster, there's a lot going on. You've got Jubilee there trying to take a Sentinel on. Is that Wolverine lunging? And look at that, Cyclops up there bursting away, and some enemies. It's just cool. The more you look, the more detail you have. You kind of do this with every piece you've got. You can zoom in, and there's just always so much going on. So that's really cool. Very cool, vibrant piece there, Douglas. That's awesome. Great work. All right, time to get into some critiques now. We're going to start with David. And you've done Fantastic Four. I love this. I just want to show it a little bit closer because you did share a few different versions. So this is the cleaned up version. Inks, all of that's refined. And then you have your pencils sketch version. And then you have your rough pencils version as well. So it's really cool to see these stages of you, developing this entire picture. So Really cool to see it like that. I'm going to choose this one, the kind of clean pencils version. I just feel like I can get a little bit more, like I can see it a bit clearer. The shading and all that's great. Don't get me wrong. This is a great setup, really clean, really nice to see it like this stage. But it's easier to work with for this kind of setup here. So I'm going to use that. I really love what you've done here on this setup. It's so dynamic. There's just a lot of energy overall, which I just love. Really love this setup. You've got this really low angle to really get that smash. Looking up at the characters, very heroic, super dynamic. Look at Susan there. That's just really cool, that pose. I love that. The anatomy is perfect. Everything's looking great. Stretch there. I call him Stretch. But that's Mr. Fantastic looking really good. And Johnny Storm there lunging up through. I just love, and the words in the back. Looks awesome. Really cool poster. I'm going to get into the critique now, so we'll get into it a bit. One thing I noticed, because you shared a few different versions of your, of your art here. Now, I love what you've been doing with the inks, especially on her. I think they're great. Absolutely great. But one thing I'm noticing, when I flick back and forth, I'm kind of really liking the energy and the lines on the sketch for some reason, more than the inks. Now, this is the thing, I've gone through this before as well, where once I place down my inks, some of the energy gets lost from your original sketch. And that's a thing I believe some artists go through as well. So, the way I'd probably do it is, like, if you look at your original, I love the flow in these outlines, these big bold outlines that come around and then they kind of taper out here. But then once we get to the inks that you've done, they kind of, all the inks, especially I'm looking at Mr. Fantastic here, they're all starting to go nearly the same width. See the fingers there? So it's losing some dynamic range. Is that what you would call it? It's losing energy. The outlines are starting to lose energy just a little bit. They still look great. Don't get me wrong. Your outlines are looking really clean and really good. But they are losing that original energy that you get from that sketch. So the way to do that, to fix it, I'd probably start doing it like, this is just a tip. Let's start to try and get a little bit of that back. So when you get to your fingers, we can go like quite thick and then, thick and then a bit of thin. Like, let's start to get that balance back in there. Same here, like thick and thin. Like, keep them quite bold in some areas just to really keep that flow. But yeah, like just here on the neck, see, losing a bit there. Just you've already got it, but I'd probably go thicker. So a little bit of thickness there, tapering out to thin, like that kind of thing. Especially under the chin here, I'd go more energy in the lines. So thick and then thin underneath the chin there. So that kind of thing. So I'd probably keep that consistent, try and do a bit more of that throughout the character and really add that kind of energy back in. Anyway, let's get into the critique a bit more. And I believe my only suggestions are, so the first one was mainly just with the outlines. Let's try and get some of that energy back in the actual outlines. Now, I want to go back to what I said first about Susan. Hers look great, so don't worry too much about her, because you seem to have followed the sketch a lot more. See through the lines and the hips and the legs here. You've done it great there. It looks awesome. It was just him up here, I think. He lost a little bit. Details are insanely great, so don't worry too much about there. All that detail you've put in the rocks are really great. So don't worry too much. You've still got some nice containing lines that really hold him together. So what I'm going to do is fade back. So I've cut them out separately. I'm going to fade back the original sketch like that. Much better. And I've got all the characters divided. Now, I've done a bit of a change to Mr. Fantastic here. I've warped him. If you look at the original, and then now I've sized him down just a tad, because I know he can enlarge and expand his body. That's one of his powers, being stretchy. He can actually make himself large, because he is way bigger here compared to Susan, especially there, and Thing. Now, yeah, so I'd probably do that, a little bit. I've just sized him down just a little bit more to fit him in frame. But I'd probably like to see his arms stretched just a little longer. So I've actually stretched them, brought them down. And then his chest is pointing up and out more. His head's bent back and stretched around a little more. Because in the original, his head was going off frame. You've got to think about you see that red line that I've got? That's bleed. And in pieces and artworks and compositions, you've got to consider like the area of bleed, which is just around the edge. It's about 5 centimeters or something like that. So the idea is you shouldn't have anything interesting going into that bleed area. Keep it all contained within this space. So his head was originally just getting in here a little bit too much. So I tucked it back a little bit more. You see now it's fitting with inside the frame. Don't worry about his fist too much. That's just like, it's more about faces and main parts of the character. The fist can kind of crop off a bit. I think that makes it more energetic anyway. The other thing, I want Johnny Storm to be bigger and up here. Fit him up into the frame a little bit more and bigger. I'd probably also get Thing. Where is he? I really want him to be up, and where we go. I'll size him up a little bit more. So I'm just going to rearrange a few things here and see how I go. And I may even size the entire picture down so that the wording stays within the bleed area. Alright, so I've just rearranged it a little bit more. I feel like something like this might work a little better. I'll just quickly lighten up behind Susan there because I can see her original pose. If I just put some... Yeah, there we go. Just don't want any of the old picture to kind of come through. So something like that. Anyway, let me show you the before and after. So I feel like that's the original there. And then now, it's just the balance I feel like works a little better now. So I wanted to have... I think in the original, Mr. Fantastic here is too big. Taking over the image a little too much, I feel like. I'd love to see more balance between them. And having Thing bigger, he's in the foreground. He's kind of like the first one. He should be taking up a fair bit of space here. And then you've got Susan next to him for size. Like she could probably even go a little bigger actually than that. So probably have her a little bigger and about there. So really filling in that space just perfectly. Something like that maybe. And then, yeah, the Human Torch about there. Similar size to Susan, but just a little smaller. Because you got to remember, because we're so low to the ground, like we're pretty much here touching the ground looking at Thing. So looking upwards at all the other characters, the perspective would probably be more like that. Yeah, so that means he'll be quite small. Yeah, you got it. And I think it's more just about placement overall. So that's probably how I would rearrange it. A little bit more balanced so that these two are a little bit bigger and the ones in the back can be smaller and sized up. You'll still be able to see the 4 words behind her, like 4. I can see it. Should still be able to read it a bit better, but I wouldn't worry too much about the words. I'd focus on the art itself, and yeah, just think about that bleed area as well, keeping everything interesting within it. So it just makes things a little easier to. There's more breathing room. So I could probably even take up the size of that text up just a little more there. Probably something like that. You see that? That's just a nice balance. A little bit more space around it to breathe. And now we can kind of really see each character in their own little area. And it's just a little bit more appealing overall. So I hope that helps, David. Really love your work. Keep it up. I can't wait to see this one finished. All right, next up, we've got Liam. I'm going to give you a bit of feedback on this piece here. You've done X-Men 97. This is awesome. Looks like a real legit cover here. Looks like we've got a nice... This really does. It looks like a cover for a comic. Very nice looking. Very professional. I really love the sized up kind of face in the back there and the design. Anyway, let's have a look and see if I can give you some feedback on this. I love seeing all these characters. You've got some really cool poses going on there. Now, I think the first thing I'm seeing overall is the placement. So the positive side of things is each of these poses are really great. done well and they fit well together. So the way you've got him dynamic coming down diagonally, they all spread out, which is perfect, and they do piece together well. The only thing that I'm going to say is they're not coming out and popping out as much as they should. They're all too kind of squished in together, too contained in this one little circle spot, in the middle, which is, I like having room to breathe around them, but we do need to spread out a few of these characters a little bit more to make it all work. Let me show you what I mean. All right, so what I would probably do is size up all of that group shot just enough, like that. So even that, I think, works a little more. So maybe even not as much, maybe about that much. It's really just a tiny bit. And then Wolverine, should probably be, like, I want him to be a bit bigger, Really make use of that spot there and have him really coming toward us a lot more. Same as Gambit. So adding dimension into the piece by having a few characters much bigger and more toward us, and then the others can be pushed back a little more. And just feel like that's going to help a lot more. So same with, there she is, Jubilee there. She should be a lot bigger as well. So putting her about there like that maybe. And then that guy over there a little bit bigger. Just enough. Jean Grey up there, I feel like she needs to just be maybe a little bigger but lower. So I feel like it's a little odd having her a little too high up there. Like by herself, she's a little bit too high. Another thing, I won't redraw it, but that knee there, I feel like it's crammed up a little too high. That foot that's tucked. If you relaxed it just a little bit more, have that foot about here, I think that'll work much nicer. I was nearly thinking we could have Rogue down here, a little bigger, kind of coming out to the side, and then Magneto up where she was behind her. I feel like that might work all right. Yeah, I kind of like that a bit better. So I'd probably put, Rogue there, really coming at you a bit more here, and then have him sitting up there. And then Nightcrawler, just have him over a little bit more, maybe even twist him out a little bit more. Storm needs to be much bigger as well, so I'd probably have her about there. And I'd just get Cyclops, I'd probably have him pretty big, right up in the middle, like a centerpiece, because I really like that pose. So I'd have him quite large. But obviously about the same size as the guys next to him, kind of thing. Anyway, there we go. I know it's kind of messy. I haven't really arranged it too well. It's hard to work with, a flat image. So it is a little messy to see, sorry. But I hope this kind of helps understand what I'm trying to get at here. If I zoom out a little, that's before and then after. I just wanted to spread out the characters a little more. Maybe I need to size everything, like all of them, back down just a little so we can get a little sense of still a little bit of space around them like you had. Yeah, I think that's a little better. So it's really just about trying to make it more dynamic in the space between them, if you know what I mean. So if I zoom in here, so Wolverine and Gambit are now coming closer to us, and that, before they were just all a little bit too much of the same size, whereas you want to spread them out a little bit. So Wolverine, Gambit coming towards us, all the others are getting pushed back more in space. And I kind of changed Rogue's pose to here, and Magneto's back there. I just felt like that made more use here, like diagonally pointing that way. Really like that pose. Storm is a lot bigger here. Yeah, so, and just pulling Jean Grey down more into the back, I felt was a better move. Just felt she was a bit alone up there by herself. But yeah, that's it. That's all I would probably do, is just space them out. That's all I wanted to kind of point out on that one. So I hope that helps. Awesome work, Liam. All right, next up, we got Patrick Downs. And you've done the X-Men. You've got Cyclops, Gambit, Rogue, and Wolverine in a team shot here. This is great. I love the way this is set up. They look really cool. Really well drawn. And I just like the colors overall. Very vibrant. Very 90s like. Anyway, let's get into some feedback for you. Now, the overall first thing I'm seeing is the they're all a bit too much the same size, and the dimension is off, the space between them. So Rogue, she's in the back, but she almost seems to be about the same size or even bigger, I think, than Wolverine. So it's kind of throwing the perspective off a little bit. So what I would do, I'll just show you. I'm going to size down Rogue first. So size her down. And so she should be more like something like that. And then Gambit, he's not too bad, but we'll size him down as well. He'll be a bit more like that probably. And then we'll get Cyclops. And Cyclops isn't too bad. I'd probably even just keep him pretty much as he is. But the other two, we're going to just put them back in space a little bit more. And we're going to rearrange as well. I think you should probably make use of the space we've got here. You've got a really cool kind of space. So what I would also probably do is actually bump Wolverine up. I'd have him huge, like this. Really big, making use of that front center space there. Then you got Cyclops. He's good at that size. But I'd probably even angle him a little bit more this way and tilt him, put him this way. Alright, and then you got Gambit really angling down there like that. I really love that. And then Rogue can have all this space up there. And I think that's a really nice kind of angle team shot there. So she can go down a little bit more. Yeah, I'll tell you what. Gambit and Rogue can now go down even more than that. Yeah, there we go. So Gambit up there. Okay. And then Rogue really making use of that space. Now I'll just clean this up so I get rid of all these little bits here like this that aren't needed. We don't want 2 heads of him. And I'll try and clean this up and show you a better kind of setup overall in a second. There we go. Something like that I reckon might work alright. So they're all kind of placed out, spaced out, and you see how, like, for instance, you've got Wolverine here. He's got his claws. I'll just clean that little bit up there, right, his claws. So he's got his claws there. The placement's kind of nice because it's, you know, he's really showing off those claws now. And the way that Gambit's foot perfectly fits in this empty space here, and the angle of this. I really love just how overall, you know, all the characters have this angle going on like this. You know, they're all lunging down towards this kind of angle. It's probably more like that kind of angle there. You see, like Gambit's, the angle of Gambit's staff or stick. So that's working really well for all of these characters. I really love that. Another idea you can have, I'll just duplicate this and show you, is I'd probably even recommend sometimes flipping, having some characters go out in a different direction so that it's all kind of, you know, they don't all have to be doing the same direction kind of thing. You know what I mean? So you can have some characters going that way, like there's an enemy coming from the left, and there's Cyclops will be doing the one on the right. Really mixing it up a little bit, like Gambit's going that way, and then Rogue and Cyclops are doing the other way kind of thing. Like, that's just an option. You don't have to do anything like that, but I just think it's cool to, you know, to mix it up a little bit. So you can go that way, or you can have them that way. And you know what, to be honest, I really can't decide. I was nearly going to say this version I like better because I like how Wolverine's arm kind of fills in that space. Ignore that stuff down there. But Gambit's leg, like if I did this version here, Gambit's leg could almost come down and fill in this kind of space here, you know what I mean? Like his other leg, kind of like that. And that would make a lot more sense, you know, and then you're filling in more space there. Like, I just think that's kind of cool. Anyway, I kind of do like the original. We'll stick with the original because I like I said, I like the angle that they're all fighting in one direction. I'd probably even, it'd be cool to see Cyclops using his eyes, doing like a beam of light coming out of his eyes, kind of. Something like that. You can even have like an intense white in the middle to resemble that. Yeah, just an option, but that does cover up Rogue's hand if you had a hand there. I think it's really up to you. Just adds more action having him beam putting a beam through there. Anyway, and then, obviously the last thing you would probably do, I'd love to see some kind of backdrop on this. It could be anything really. I just placed in like one that I've done before. You could literally just throw in some colors and streaks, a bit of smoke, even a few rocks for rubble like that. I just think that would change the entire piece if you did something like that, like just throwing in a background. You can even fade it down a little bit if you want to keep it more like a lighter version. But yeah, I'd recommend trying to do a background in there, and then that's it. I love that. Love what you've done. Let's go to the original and just do a bit of comparison just so I can show you the changes. So let me hide my background because that'll make it easier to see. Alright, so before and then after, you can see. So before and then after. Yeah, before and after. It's really about the dynamic range between them, or the space between the characters, pushing some of them further back into space and then others further forward to get that foreshortening, and making use of the space around them, like filling in the characters. Like, you've done these poses perfectly, they're great. I just feel like they needed to be rearranged to fit, like Gambit fits really nice up there, whereas before he was getting a little bit lost in some bits, like that leg is clashing with Wolverine's hand and arm. It's kind of like a tension point. So I really love what you've done. And I hope that helps to see that kind of rearranged, that team shot kind of rearranged a little bit more. Yeah, all right. Thanks, Patrick. You're awesome. All right, that's it for this monthly project. Hope you enjoyed the video. And thanks for everyone who submitted some art and gave you a bit of feedback there and some of those. And if you're new to monthly projects and you'd like to join in, just head over to my Patreon at patreon.com/PatrickBrown. And you can join in. These projects are designed to help you grow as an artist. And I'm always mixing it up every month. So yeah, anyway, thanks for watching. I'll see you all in the next video.